Kenny, just this week there's been a lot of talk after Harvick won and Stewart, a lot of, not criticism, but highlighting the short tracks and the dirt tracks and how important that is to the future and viability of NASCAR and different things. I know you've worked directly and had meetings with NASCAR. Can you speak a little bit about what that push is about and what's causing some of that?
It started with years ago me asking Schrader to teach me how to run dirt, and I got involved, and I realized that there was a big disconnect. All these dirt tracks that I would go to, it was amazing to me. I would have so many dirt fans come up and they don't like NASCAR. And I was like, what? NASCAR doesn't care about us. And it just shocked me. And I kind of kept it to myself for years. I'm like, why don't dirt racing fans like NASCAR? So last year, well, not last year, but you know, once Schrader says, once I learned how to keep the dirt car pointed in the right direction, and you know, I got more passionate, and dirt racing became like a bag of potato chips for me. I couldn't put it down. And I just kept doing it. And I just realized after traveling around, it was quite apparent that a lot of dirt racing fans feel like NASCAR has left them. So the story's a little longer, but I'm going to take a shortcut. Jim Cassidy, who is a very high-level executive at NASCAR, read a story last year, and he called me up, and I looked down, and I had his number, and I'm like, Jim Cassidy's calling me? Very high executive at NASCAR. And he said, I read that you said, he read that I said, there's a big disconnect between dirt racing and NASCAR. He said, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, Jim, I said, you know, listen, I'm just man of the people here. You know, I go to all these little dirt tracks, and dirt racing fans feel like you don't care about them. And we started talking. Years ago, you know, Winston, they would put up 100 scoreboards throughout the world, or United States, right? It'd be say Winston, and it would have position 1, Larry Phillips. 2, I'm going to go back and have fun, Kenny Schrader. 3, Terry Bivens. No, that's way back. Terry Brumley. But anyway, you know, I'm a Midwest boy. So the point was, as Jim Cassidy said, that RJR, they paid for all that. So when those scoreboards went away, the fans thought NASCAR left them. When to begin with, it was Winston that paid for all those scoreboards. Those scoreboards got taken down somewhere. The connection was lost. And NASCAR does care about it. They're worried about it. So 2 weeks went by, and I told Jim, I said, Jim, I'm going to call you out on social media. Be ready. And so he said, all good. So I started telling everybody that I've had, you know, big conference calls. NASCAR cares. So me saying it is one thing. So Kevin Harvick, who is one of our most popular drivers, he literally thrashed NASCAR in Victory Lane in the media center Sunday, and now it has been brought to light. And everything Kevin has said is correct. And so we do everything we can do, you know, to let everybody know what we said. You know, this is, you know, these are the type of tracks that your next Christopher Bell or Kyle Larson, or, you know, this is where Kenny Schrader came from. He came from these dirt tracks, and I wanted to be like Kenny Schrader. I wanted to run Daytona, you know, and run dirt tracks.
You need to raise your standards a little bit.
So that's where the sport's at right now. Kenny has been quietly passionate, and listen, there's only one reason I run dirt besides my desire with, you know, growing up watching A.J. Foyt, Mario Andretti, was him. It just amazed me how incredible my best friend is. You know, this is where we learn to race, and so we have to pay it forward. It's no different than education. You got to send your kid to school, right? So he can add. Well, if you want to be a race car driver, you have to have a place to race. And so that's where it's all at right now. We're trying to get NASCAR to raise its awareness of local racing.
Oh, that's a great perspective. Just a funny story. Have you ever been left at a dirt track when you were younger, Kenny?
So these were my stomping grounds. Larry Phillips was my hero, even though he was a tough guy. We went to Fort Smith, Arkansas, big ASA race, and that's where we all had to be. And so Charlie Chase had a motorhome, and we were big time because we were going to bring a motorhome to Fort Smith. And Pocola, Oklahoma, I guess is the proper name, but it's right there. So then we had the race car hauler. We were big time. Race car hauler, and I'm in there with my brother Rusty, Paul Andrews, the crew chief, and then the motorhome. So we go down, we run the race, and we get ready to leave a couple of days later, and I tell the motorman, Don Kern, Don builds the motors, and I said, Don, I'm going to the bathroom, okay? I'm like 11 or 12 at the most. Go to the bathroom and come out, and everybody's gone. So I panic. I just start walking. Later, I realized I was walking to Florida, not back to St. Louis. I called my mom. I said, Mom, they've left me. Kenny, calm down. What are you talking about? I'm like, Rusty left me. I'm in Fort Smith, and they left me. So Mom calls Arkansas Highway Patrol. Of course, the great Larry Phillips taught me about, was that Black Mountain Smokehouse, turkey and cheese sandwich, provolone cheese, mayonnaise. That was the big deal. Here come the, yeah, right. I tend to get ADD. So all of a sudden,
jump him every now and
then. Yeah, every once in a while, I get off course. Rusty sends a guy back after me, and they finally get me up to Springfield, Missouri, and Rusty chews my ever-living ass out. You know how late we are? What the hell was you doing? And I had to admit to him, I said, well, when I was in the bathroom, I couldn't get the toilet paper off the toilet paper roll, and I got my ass chewed out. They left me, and to this day, whenever I go to the bathroom, I go, Schrader, I'm going to the bathroom.
You know we left your ass on purpose.
Yeah, I talk too much. Leave him alone. A lot of great stories around this area.
I'll give everybody a chance here in a minute to ask some questions too, but I just got one more for each of them, and then we'll open the floor. So you guys have both had long and distinguished NASCAR careers, pole winners, race winners. I'd ask you your favorite memory, but the one I want to hear from you, Kenny, is pushing Dale Earnhardt across the finish line. Just give us a little bit about what that was like and set that stage.
Well, at the moment, you don't know what's going on. You're just going and doing. I think, it was big at the moment because when I got out of the car, I heard him, and he was bigger than life. He was a man's man, right? All of us guys admit it. We all wanted to be Dale Earnhardt. That mustache, and he was a badass. So when he was bragging on me in Victory Lane, I'm like, oh boy. I thought I ran second, and I was a little, maybe I could have done this. I was thinking like a racer. It wasn't until Earnhardt telling everybody, and then, oh my God, it's $1 million. It wasn't a normal race at Talladega. And then, I just got loyal to him, and he's got that big white paw up there, and, there's a lot, to go with the story, but it wasn't till later realizing it was the last win of his life, and, it became a monumental win. I have people to this day, they say, out of your 9 Xfinity wins, no, that wasn't nothing. Things that I've done, believe it or not, one of my biggest highlights of my life was, running second to Earnhardt, or as a lot of people say in Alabama, man, you pushed my man to the last win of his life. I love you, Kenny Wallace. So, craziest second place in my life, but I'll take it.
Schrader, what's your greatest NASCAR memory? You have any? You won, what, 4 or 5?
Yeah, not near enough. I don't know, and I really don't. I'm always, you know what? You could win. I mean, Harvick, he won Phoenix, great. He won the last 3, it's fantastic. But when he pulls into Fontana Friday, it doesn't mean nothing. It's a new day, new weekend, and it starts from scratch. So, and we've raced in a lot of NASCAR races, but we've raced in a lot more races, just regular races. So, I don't know, getting that World Outlaw win yesterday without having to do anything was right up there.
So in case you don't know the story about that, the World of Outlaws organization went back through all their history, and they previously only counted feature winners as those that won on the final night. They have a multi-day program. So if you won on Thursday or Friday, even though it was a full field of cars, you were not credited with that win. So Schrader this week got credit for like May 12th, 1980, winning his only World of Outlaws feature event. So he wasn't the only one, but that's his most recent race win. All right, so I'm going to open.
I won one since then.
World of Outlaws.
Okay, not recent. Yeah.
81?
I mean, somewhere, not Outlaws, but I mean, we won a race since then.
Lots. He's won lots of races. All right, I'm going to open the floor up for questions. Linda's going to bring the mic around. Just please make sure you ask your question in the mic so we pick it up through the box in the back for the media people, if you would, please. We'll take 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll get on with the rest of the program. Caden, you got to ask something about racing, how to get there, something.
Who's first up?
Anyone? Bueller?
You don't
Bueller?
He'll start talking.
You don't talk, I'm going to. I don't like silence.
For people that race on a weekly basis, every other week, whatever it may be, as you go up through the ranks, through the years, you start when you're young, how do you get the experience on the off time to where you can't have a track where you can just run all the time? It's not like going out shooting baskets every night to where you get better and better, or throwing the football to your receiver or something like that during practice. How do you get your practices in to make you better?
So I'll answer that in modern era talk. There's a great race car driver right now named William Byron. He took over Jeff Gordon's car. His family had nothing to do with racing. He didn't grow up in racing. With modern technology, now we're talking about now times, not years ago. These kids, this technology is just unbelievable. He grew up on iRacing, where you purchase this TV monitor, and that's the way all these manufacturers now are doing it. These kids, Dale Earnhardt Jr. hired a kid, and the kid's winning short track races. So there's nothing like real time, but you bring up a good point, and that's why it is so hard to be good at auto racing. It's a tough sport. You cannot go out and play racing in your backyard. You're right, and that's why it's so hard.
You just got to race more. I mean, you start out, maybe it's family hobby, obviously, and you're racing every Saturday night here. You got to find a place to race Friday night too, and then find a place to run Sunday, and then maybe some Wednesday specials and stuff. You just got to get all the laps you can. But now with the iRacing and that, which I know nothing about, but I know enough about it that it's real, because I talked to and Byron's a good example. You talk to these kids that are in those high-profile cars now, and they know what to expect when they go down in turn one, their very first lap on that track, from their experience at iRacing.
Just to follow up on that, with iRacing, I have signed a contract with iRacing for here as well. They will be scanning our off-road track and our circle track this spring. We will be on the iRacing game hopefully by the end of the year. It's about a 2-year process to get that. The neat thing about iRacing is, like their dirt tracks, the dirt actually changes just like a real race car. Some of these other video games, you just ride around, whatever. This, your tires get hot, the dirt wears out. It is so realistic. It's unbelievable. They added the Chili Bowl this year to iRacing. They took 11,000 photos at the Chili Bowl facility to simulate that electronically. So it's a huge undertaking, but should be on that by the end of the year.
Guys, we've seen NASCAR run trucks at Eldora. Is there going to be a time when Cup races will be held on dirt, and how good would that be to connect the sport of NASCAR to the general public?
I definitely never say never, but there's not really. We don't have a facility in the country that could accommodate the Cup Series coming in now. And let's just say, not that you couldn't add it here. Say, hey, we can have a Cup race at Wheatland. We'll add it, no problem. But as far as Cup, what they got to have X number of suites. They got to be able to seat. I would think a minimum would be what they'd look at would probably be 60 or 70,000 people. They got to have pit road. They got to have infield care center. Not that they need it necessarily, but that's, I mean, it's got to be there for them to come. And then there's only so many parts of the country that we don't go. You know, the Cup Series doesn't go. I mean, here we go right up the road, Kansas City. The whole, like years ago, build it and they will come. Well, they build enough of these places now that they didn't come, that I don't think people think quite like that like that anymore. You know, we've got some beautiful facilities that had grand plans of Cup being there. One of them would be Iowa, one of them would be St. Louis, Nashville, which is shuttered completely, Memphis. You know, it's got to be the right location too, but I don't see Cup going to a dirt track just yet. There has been talk about maybe trucks going to another one. You know, they're faced with enough of their own issues right now as far as the downturn they're seeing in television and spectators, not unlike a lot of other sports too. You know, it's not like we're being affected, but something that none of the other entertainment, you know, all the people in the entertainment dollars are fighting over, are all struggling a little bit. So, but I don't see that happening just real quick or anytime, but I won't say never.
Anybody else with a question for these guys?
Kenny, I know you run the Chili Bowl once, I think, didn't you?
I had to just try it, see how if I could start the car. That was my, yeah, but go ahead.
Ken, did you ever think about running it?
One qualifying night twice. Qualifying, yeah. We I don't know. We've probably only been there 5 times, maybe 6. 2 years in a row, we won a qualifying night. I think the best we ever did in a race was 7th, maybe. Sammy and I started on the front row together and run into each other first lap, and we both had to go to the back. Yeah, it's neat. Went down there for one night this year. Just drove down and watched for a night and had to get away because it's like, might be fun to try. But, you know, I lived through all that shit once. I don't want to do it again.
That sounded like Larry Phillips right there, didn't it? I love that. The Chili Bowl was a great experience for me. I had no business being there, but I believe, you know, I really respect that whole event. I had a uniform. Sure, it was great. I always ask him, you know, my big brother Rusty, of course, my father, and then Kenny. There's those 3 that I always ask approval for. So the story with the Chili Bowl is Tony Stewart was really considering buying my North Carolina home because I moved back to St. Louis. And in pure Tony Stewart deal, he stops by my house and he goes, I see you winning those modified races. He says, but you're not a true dirt racer until you run the Chili Bowl. And man, my wife went, if you get my man hurt, I will kick your ass. So Kenny knows this is true. So I said, oh my God, I see those guys flipping those cars and I'm like 51 years old already and I don't know. So, you know, Tony Stewart called me out. And then I made my mind up, I'm going to do it with Brad Loyette. His shop is like right down the road. So I go just, you know, I'm sure, you know, he's running those midgets his whole life. And I go to seek approval from him and I say, hey, Kenny, what do you think if I run the Chili Bowl? His lower lip started quivering. He goes, you're crazy. That's like somebody showing up at Darlington and jumping on the track and qualifying right away. I went, oh no. So my goal was to not flip. It never bicycled, but I could feel it do like this once, and I let off the gas. So I made it out of there unscathed. And then you said you might go back.
I've never really started a race with my goal would be not to flip. Oh yeah.
One year, we're from Kenny and his best friend Tom Hannock are from Valley Park, and you know my brother Rusty. We went big car racing, stock cars, and Kenny was open wheel, and Rusty says, you know, run down to Seaburg's, get me a stick of tubing. Long story. I missed it, but I did that on purpose. It was fun though, right? So I took off, and I go up the road to run and get these parts. And Kenny comes around the corner, and his eyes are completely blacked out. He looked like a monster because
I flipped. Yeah, I flipped lots of times.
when you flip really bad at a midget, what happens?
Well, it was, you know, you just break blood vessels in your eyes. But so I had no white. They were solid red, so that looked bad enough. And then it was all black up here and all black. I mean, it looked like you'd been punched in the eyes. But 2 black eyes with no whites. But I had that happen a couple times. You got used to it.
So as I'm going to the Chili Bowl, I have this childhood memory of seeing Kenny Schrader at Carroll House at the four-way furniture store right there. And I'm like, holy moly. I run back and said, Rusty, you should see Schrader. He flipped a midget. He's destroyed. So I'm just like, oh, no, here we go. And then when I go to the Chili Bowl, I'm like, there's 320 cars. I'm in practice group 11. And me and Rico Abreu, we run to the grandstands real quick. We're sitting there. And World of Outlaw champion Darren Pittman. They go around the track. They drop the green flag for the very first practice session. He knows what he's doing. Rolls it like 6-8 times. Sticks it in the fence. It's sticking there. It's sticking there. Crew runs out and the whole thing falls down. I'm like, he knows what he's doing. I'm sure I'll flip out of the place. So yeah, that's my Chili Bowl experience. Thanks for asking. I like my modified. Got a full cage around it.
It was brought up just a minute ago about the attendance, especially at the national scene, with fans not really coming out, staying at home watching on TV. Lucas Oil Speedway, a very family-friendly venue. What needs to be done at the national scene as well as some of the smaller tracks to get more fans involved, fans out of the track on a weekly basis?
I'm not sure there's one thing that needs to be done or we all be doing it. But, you know, and when I say, I mean, NASCAR's struggling at some venues worse than others, you know, but just like all the other sports are also. We're involved with ownership at racetrack Federated Auto Parts Raceway right outside St. Louis, and we were up last year for our weekly shows, and our specials were up substantially too. So it's just there's more. I mean, we'll give it to Dan because he's got a lot more experience. There's just more things to do out there, and just competing for the entertainment dollar.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, our bread and butter is racing, and that's the main show, but we do so many more things here to entertain fans. We have music, and we have kids stuff, and we're adding a selfie zone this year, and I already bought Snapchat filters for other stuff. You just got to stay on top of everything all the time to reach these kids. A real quick story. My son's here, Dylan. He's 18 now, but we went to a trip through MLRA land up north a couple years ago, and we go down the highway, and about every 15 minutes, he's taking some goofy picture of himself with his phone. I'm like, what are you doing? He said, I'm getting a Snapchat filter from La Crosse, Wisconsin. I'm like, what do you mean? So he shows me, and every place has a filter, and it's like this thing to show where you're at. So I didn't know shit about it then. I do now. So we bought them, we generated them. You know, you got to reach these kids. You know, they're not on Facebook, whatever. But at the track, people want to be involved, and that's the way they can share, say they're there, show their buddies, and it just helps. You can't just rely on the 45, 50-year-old people like us just to come to watch the races. It's just not there anymore for the most part.
I want to comment on something, though. Give me that.
Yes, sir.
So there's a lot of positive news. You know, we had a conversation on the way here, but I want to let everybody know that last year at Eldora, when a promoter announces record crowds, it's real, because a promoter never wants to say they're doing good. Roger Slack, Tony Stewart, they announced at Eldora record crowds. We went to the World Finals at Charlotte. They announced sold-out record crowds. Dirt racing is doing really good right now, the big events. The local nights, and I'm glad Forrest wants to, look at it. But let's be clear. The bad days are over. Everything is really good right now in dirt racing. We just want to keep it up. Dirt racing is back in a big way because all the big shows are announcing record crowds. It's just a fact. Some people want to be negative. They want to waller in negativity. Dirt racing's kicking total ass right now. It really is.
It's really good, but I'm involved in ownership of 3 tracks, and if anybody would like to be involved in a racetrack, I have an opportunity for you.
Yeah, those rainouts for the World of Outlaws killed his racetrack, but usually it's sold out. So weather plays. Now I'll say this: weather can ruin a local track. When you bring in Lucas Oil late models, and you're paying all that money to win, and it rains. Dirt racing is very sensitive, as we know, to weather. The year before, Kenny kicked ass with the World Outlaws, but then we had all this rain. It'll shut a local short track down in a heartbeat. We need luck. We need good weather on those big events. It's a fact.
Any more questions?
I own 2 late models. I put this young gentleman in last year about the middle of the season, 16 years old. Done a tremendous job, and I feel this year's even going to be better. After the season quit here, I put him in a lot of the bigger races, the MLRAs, Comp Cams, Mars. Done a tremendous job. Do you have any advice for him, being that young, what he should do to continue his career on up, which he wants to do?
You just need to spend more. You need to spend more money, or I have a 22-year-old son that'll be graduating from college May 12th that has no use for automobile racing. I just give him a $100 bill every time I see him, and it's a lot cheaper. The best you won't want to hear this. And obviously I'm way too old, not smart enough to do it. You could maybe save yourself by taking up golf now. And if you think that's funny, get back with me in 20 years.
There's an old saying, competition will kill you. We love competing. I read a book by the great Tony La Russa, manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, and Tony's a good friend of mine through this and that. I just got back from Cardinal Fantasy Camp. I love baseball. And Tony's book was basically on, you live to have your gut tore out. And in that book that Tony wrote, it's kind of funny, isn't it, competition? The reason we do it is because we might not win, but we might win. And the reason we race is for the love of competition. And I race because my dad raced. You're a wonderful man. I want my kids are spoiled ass rotten because they're good. They're good kids. I look at wonderful children throughout the United States, whether it's Bobby Pierce. Bobby Pierce would not be where he's at today without his beautiful mom and dad, Angie and Bob. So you're of age now, time to empty your pocketbook and pay it forward. I mean, that's what I would do, right? I mean, if you're sitting there at 75 years old and you still got money, empty it out. That's the way life is supposed to be, So have a blast and race your ever-living ass off. And
we have space available in our cars, too.
Yeah, we do. Hey, I'm going to leave you with this. Tom Grady is a wonderful attorney, and he's a friend of Kenny's and mine in Concord, North Carolina. And this is what I would tell you to have fun in life. Tom said, "Herman, how you doing?" I said, "Doing good, Tom." He says, "Man, 3 funerals in the last 2 weeks. Go make some memories, buddy. Make some memories. Have a friggin' blast. Go racing. Just go racing and go la, la, la. Tune everybody else out. Do your deal."
Kenny, I hope it's all right. Tell a quick story about your dad, what you said in RPM about how your dad had all this money, and you said you were going to launch your last check.
Oh.
This is a great
No, I gave a speech at the Promoters Workshop in Daytona 2012. And I ended my speech with this, and Dan brings up a good point. This should be everybody's goal in life. My dad was born in the 30s, died at 77, one of the greatest race car drivers in the Midwest. And Dad was, you know, always remembering when we were broke, and always, you know, he spent a lot of money on racing. And my dad would always say, "You can't race, you don't have any money." And I just kept racing. And I finally realized my goal in life is for my very last check to the funeral home to bounce. Leave those son of bitches. No. Well, my wife would be writing it. Yeah. But, you know, that's your goal in life, is to damn break yourself at the very end. Have a blast. You know, they always say, "Oh, leave money to your family." That's bullshit. They will find their money. They will find their money. Don't worry about keeping money for all your kids. That'll just make it easier on them. Spend all your money till the very end. That's my advice. You don't need it when you're dead, man.
But you got to know when you're going to die. You can screw yourself over.
Yeah. If you know when you're going to die, it's perfect timing. Insurance men will tell you. You'll never die.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, and these guys will be available for one-on-ones, as will Dan. So that'll conclude the formal edition of the program. Thanks, guys, and thanks for coming.